Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your den of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
It's a real pleasure for me as a longtime fan to be sitting here with Aaron Gray.
Here with Larry Hama.
We're talking with Kevin J. Anderson, best-selling author.
Mr. Neil Adams.
I am here with David Fritz.
Axel Alonso, editor.
Shadow Stevens.
And Dallas Comic-Con with John Delancey.
With Tom King.
Kevin Conroy.
Free comic book day.
Denise Crosby.
PopCon Pop Expo.
Here on location at Star Wars
We're
Celebration.
SciFi4Me talking for our second time with Gil Gerard.
Wichita, Kansas at Time Eddie.
Producer David Gerald.
I've got Eric Flint.
Are here at Smallville Comic Con.
Wizard World St. Louis.
VillageCon in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Michael Lombardi.
We were talking with Alan Dean.
Quincy Allen.
Suzanne Lambden.
Of Starlog Magazine, Mr. Kerry Oakwith.
Chris Sami.
Len Lee. Schwartz. Mano Intirami. Jason Aaron.
This is Sci-Fi4Me, your portal to the science fiction multiverse.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jason Hunt.
Hello. How are you tonight?
Continue the adulation. Continue
We
the
can
adulation.
put that on a loop. We can just do that all night.
In and out.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there. It's been a crazy couple of 2-3 weeks. It's running ragged, trying to get everything working, trying to get it all done. I wear too many hats here.
I know. I watch. I admire from a distance. I tell people that Sci-Fi4Me, that's the podcast that I want to be when I grow up. Because you guys, this looks like it's a full-time job for you guys. I mean,
It is. Well, it's full-time. It's full-time pretty much for me. Everybody else is, volunteer as they've got time to do things. But yeah, my particular role, depending on the day of the week and the hour of the day, I am editor, writer, video producer, podcast producer, podcast editor, graphics designer, video did I do video production, video editing, production manager, program director, station manager, advertising and salesperson, promotions director, social media manager, talent recruiter, talent booker. Yeah, it's just depending on what it is that I've got to do at that particular hour. Is like, yeah, I do all of it, and I need help.
And I'm like I'm so fly by the seat of your pants. Is like, do I have a guest tonight? Let's call somebody up.
Yeah.
Schedule it.
Well, and every now and again I'll have that happen where somebody will come in the last minute and say, "Oh, hey, we've got some time. Can we do something?" But we try to, yeah, coffee maker too. Yes, that's right, Mrs. Boss there in the chat. I try to schedule things ahead of time because a lot of times, and you probably get the same emails that I get from from PR people. They're an actor, or an author, or somebody, this new thing coming out. And I try to schedule the interviews close to the release date. Say if you've got an author, they've got a new book coming out. I try to schedule those dates close to the street date of the book, so we can sit there and kind of maximize promotional value and stuff.
Sure.
And a lot of times, it's funny. I got one particular PR company that'll send me emails offering interviews with particular people. And I'll say yes. I'll send notes back, say yes. And then I won't hear anything.
I've been there.
A couple of weeks later, I'll get another email offering the same interview. And I'll have to send them a note back. I was like, I already responded in the affirmative. Yes, we'd like to schedule something. Let's do this. And then after the interview happens, about 2 weeks later, I'll get an email offering up the interview. I was like, we already had him.
Yeah, they're not. It's going out in a batch. But
yeah,
do you get the ones?
Yeah.
Do you get the ones where like the email header is worded so that it cuts off correctly, and it's like, interview opportunity, Back to the Future star Christopher Lloyd, and you open it, and it's like, it's Brothers Gardener.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we get a few of those. Yeah. I'm gonna have to apologize ahead of time because I'm getting over bronchitis. So every now and again, I could get caught up short. I'm going to try to keep my finger on the cough button, but hopefully I won't blow anybody's ears out if I suddenly just have this heaving, retching cough that comes out of nowhere. So,
what's good for that is a nationwide blizzard. Because I didn't realize till like 5 minutes before showtime that this snow and ice that they're predicting for my area is like, yeah, that's from sea to shining sea. It's just gonna be.
Yeah, it's gonna be cold everywhere. I think tomorrow we're supposed to start getting some precipitation tomorrow, and it's really gonna start coming down on Thursday. But tomorrow, I think our high is supposed to be 2. So it's gonna be brutally cold. Even if we don't get a lot of precipitation, it's like I'm staying in. I'm not going anywhere.
You don't need precipitation. That's when you go outside and you breathe outward and you see this snow and you realize that's all the crystallized nose hairs that just broke off.
Yeah.
Blew out.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Not fun.
So way before SciFi4Me came to be a thing, Jason Hunt was a thing. And he was into sci-fi. I'm guessing.
Yes.
It could be that you just looked around and says, what would be a good topic to make some money on? Okay, let's do the opposite of that. For the challenge of it.
Right.
So what are your sci-fi roots, man? When do you remember what got you into it?
Yeah, I started when I was young. When I was probably 5, 6, 7 years old, somewhere in there. My official story has always had it with me being 5, but I think I was a little bit older, 6 maybe. And when I would come home after school, I would watch George Reeves and the Adventures of Superman,
Yes.
because it's Superman. And you had Mighty Mouse on the Saturday morning cartoons and that kind of thing. And I remember one time flipping through the channels and stumbled across this image that just caught me up short. It was this brightly colored corridor, and there were these two men standing in this corridor. And one of them had a gold shirt on, one of them had a blue shirt on, and the guy with the blue shirt had pointed ears. And I thought, hang on, what is this? What is this? And so I get the TV guide, which, back then it was a printed, newsprint. You actually had a TV guide. And I opened the TV guide and I'm looking, it was like, what time is it here? Star Trek. What is this? I'm going to watch this. And I got hooked, and I have not looked back. And my mother has regretted it the rest of my life. But yeah, that was the beginning of it. And of course, you had Star Wars come out in 77, Battlestar Galactica in 78. So yeah, that pretty much cemented it for me.
The 80s really did produce, and late 70s, early 80s really produced a lot of sci-fi and thus sci-fi aficionados. Yeah. Even though I feel like there's a generation before them is like, yeah, real sci-fi. We were reading, we had to wait for books.
Asimov, Bradbury, and all that. Well, and really the stuff like you'd find with Star Trek and Twilight Zone and Night Gallery and that kind of thing, you wouldn't have that stuff without Asimov and Bradbury and Richard Matheson and
because they were adapting
Sturgeon and all that. Yeah. So yeah, and I mentioned my mother. Superman 78 was one of the few movies that I remember she went with us to go see, because my mom never really had any interest in going to the movies. And every now and then, it was a rare event when she did. She went with us to see Star Wars, and she went with us to see Superman. And really, her movie going probably didn't pick up again until she was going in with my kid. So, it was like, Mom's going to the movie? What's up with that? So
it's funny because when I was growing up, our church was like, preached against going to the movies. It was one of the things you couldn't do. I couldn't find a verse. I didn't know they had kinescope in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but they were like, no, you can't go. But my dad did make sure that I went to see Superman and I went to see Star Wars, because he knew I'd been reading comic books since I was 4 years old. So of course I'm going to go see Superman. Had to. But I think what really got me into sci-fi though was because you couldn't not be in it, watching cartoons, reading comic books, all that stuff like I was. But at some point when I was like 13 or so, our church youth pastor gave me all of his sci-fi paperbacks, and there was a ton of Andre Norton in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I looked at the bag. I was like, "Are you sure I can have these?" He's like, "Yeah, they're just sci-fi books." Well, I wasn't looking at the sci-fi book. I was looking at the covers, because
right.
sci-fi
paperbacks. Stuff.
Yes, Frazetta stuff, and it's like, and they were raised. They were embossed covers, so the boobies were like little dents on the and they were like, she's not wearing anything. I better hide these books. But good stuff. Sadly, I never got into Richard Matheson until like 10 years ago. I'd known his works, but I hadn't read it.
His stuff is still on my to-do list. I mean, you've got the stuff that he wrote for Star Trek. I mean, The Enemy Within is a good example, where the one where Kirk gets split into two, Jekyll and Hyde type things. That's Matheson.
Yeah.
But I've never, I hate to admit, I have not read I Am Legend. And funnily enough, I haven't seen any of the movies. So I need to.
You're not spoiled.
I've got a ton of stuff like that where I'm still playing catch up. Even at 52, I'm still playing catch up on a lot of things that I should have seen before now, but haven't for whatever reason. I mean, for a lot of that, I got married when I was 25. And so after that, things got a little not quite as active in terms of fandom and all this. You got a family, you got a job, all these different things and whatnot. So different obligations get in the way in things. And really, I didn't have the wherewithal or the time to just carve out and just go and see all of this stuff, because she didn't have very much interest in it. And I'm not talking about Mindy, it was first wife.
Okay.
And so there was a diminishment in enthusiasm for a while, just basically because it really does have an impact when you've got people around you that are important in your life for whatever reason, and they don't encourage you, they don't support you. As a matter of fact, sometimes will even try to discourage you. Well, I don't know why you're interested in that stuff. And it does put a damper on things. And so there's some stuff that I've still got to catch up on and read and watch and that kind of thing.
You've got to read Button, the Richard Matheson short story. One of the most brilliant pieces of he's the science fiction O. Henry. Just the way he always wrote stuff.
I need to just do a run to Half Price Books and just collect a pile because it's part of the long-term planning for the apocalypse plan, because
gotta have paper.
We got to have physical media. We've got to save this stuff, because when all of the computers die and the artificial intelligence turns off and the banks go away, and suddenly digital currency is the only thing that you have, and then all of that goes away, and now we're in the apocalyptic dystopia of the future. Books will be an important piece of preserving our civilization. So
yeah, we may even go take a further step backwards and just remember it all.
Yeah, I just need to go through it and just do some runs to Half Price and just start pulling stuff and have it in the library.
Button, 15 minutes of your life you will not regret having spent.
Okay, I will make a note.
But you do bring up an interesting conversation point that I did have on my mental bullet list, which is, now that you are equally yoked, how did you and Mindy come together, and was science fiction involved? And before you answer that, we are having an active chat that I need to attend to. Mindy says it's going to get 2 degrees around 1 p.m. Woody says it's going to hit us around noon tomorrow. And when he says us, he didn't say us, I say us. He lives near me, so I know he'll be shivering along with me. Mike Walters has stopped in to like and share the live stream. Always appreciate that. And I'm sorry, I did tell you I was going to be with Jason tonight, but he thought I was going to your place. Instead, you came over to my crib for a little while. Jason is slumming tonight, so
it's nice to be a guest every now and again, and have the duties flipped a little bit.
Yeah, every now and then you look at the chat and you try to click on things and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So you and Mindy, where does this love story begin?
Well, it's a funny story.
She had broken ears. I was.
Well, no, we didn't meet at a convention. We actually met on Tinder.
Hey,
I had been single for a while. Was not looking to do anything serious anywhere. I just, I was like, well, it'd be nice to go out every now and again, just to have a date, just for something different. And connected with her, and we did our first date on July 23rd and immediately hit it off. Our first date was Cheesecake Factory, and we immediately hit it off, and we started seeing each other fairly steadily right there at the beginning. And we had this thing coming up. It was in, 2016. And we had WorldCon right around the corner, and it was here in Kansas City. And we set the whole thing up to broadcast live from WorldCon. So the World Science Fiction Convention is here in Kansas City, and we set up a a space about 10 feet by 20 foot. And she just like, well, that sounds like fun. And so she dove right in and helped us, with coordinating logistics and scheduling and grabbing people. And, we did 53 interviews in a course of 5 days out there at Worldcon. And we talked about the Hugo Awards, and we interviewed all sorts of authors and editors and publicists and stuff. And she has not looked back. We were right after that, we went to Kansas City Comic-Con and did the same kind of thing. And that's when she met my kid, and they immediately hit it off. And he was telling me to marry her before I was seriously deciding that I was going to marry her. So
he knew the right decision was right there in front of him.
Well, it's good. It's good when the kid likes the new girlfriend, right?
Yeah,
Because
I guess.
that was,
I don't know.
that was the thing. It was like, it's if they don't get along, then we have a problem.
Right.
So excuse me. So it was good that they got along. So, and it just went from there, and she's gradually taken on more things here, and she maintains the convention list and the calendar, and handles the weather forecast every week, and collects all of that information from all over the place. And that's a worldwide forecast. So every week she's looking ahead to the next week. Okay, well, what conventions are coming up next weekend? And then she'll go through the weather forecast for every single city that's having a Comic-Con next weekend, and puts all of that together, and we have it for Saturday morning. So
are we really at the point where comic conventions are happening with that frequency?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. The only week that I think we don't have any events is this coming weekend, Christmas. I think we've had an event every week of the year. And pre-pandemic, it was even worse, because, it was even busier. I would say it's worse. It was busier. Now things are opening back up. We're getting back to that point where we've got events pretty much every weekend all year. And our master list over on the convention side of things, we've got, let me see if I can pull it up here real quick, because I want to make sure that I get our count right.
I know that NWA Con is coming up here in January, because I've got a reminder on my phone to buy my tickets this weekend. And it just strikes me as wrong that, when I was younger, conventions were a summer thing.
Yeah, no,
it's all year long.
Yeah, let me pull this up, because you'll be surprised. Let me open this up here. Okay, so this is our conventions page over at SciFi4Me.com. And currently, this is an alphabetical list. There's a Google Calendar embedded in there that has all the events. And then you've got the alphabetical list past that with links to all of the different convention websites and stuff that we can verify and stuff. But our count right now, 2,513. That's how many Comic-Cons that we have on our list. Now, these are active, or there are a few of them that we're not sure if they're coming back yet or not. We're waiting to see. So, 2513. And these are ones that most of them we've been able to verify are still around, still active, still going on, and they're on the calendar. Some of them have said, yes, we're coming back in 2023, but we don't have a date yet, stuff like that, where, post-pandemic things are opening back up. People are still trying to get their legs back underneath them. But yeah, Mindy is constantly updating that list, and she's looking at other people's lists. Ours is the biggest list on the web anywhere, because it's every kind of convention. It's it's comic book conventions, it's horror conventions, it's all the creation stuff, Supernatural and the originals and Vampire Diaries, and
everything from the broadest right down to the narrow niche.
Gaming conventions, there's anime conventions, there's horror conventions, there's even some furry conventions on that list. So yeah, it's everything. It's pretty comprehensive.
So I linked below the video, folks. If you want to see what Jason's got going on, the link below the video is sci-fi4me .tv, which is a relist to your YouTube channel.
Yeah, .tv goes to the YouTube channel. .com will go to the main site, which has, book reviews, movie reviews, some interviews, that kind of thing. But we've also embedded all of our TV shows are over there, along with the links to other places like Odyssey and, our Discord and that sort of
That's a
thing.
brilliant way to do it. Because what I found is that YouTube videos don't quite get linked the same way that website articles do. So if I've got a YouTube video I really want people to see, I'll write an article about it and embed it in the Critical Blast page. And then Google News picks that up.
Yeah, and that's something that whenever we do a book review and I have an interview with the author, then the interview with the author, that video gets embedded in the review. So, it's kind of a twofer there. So
yeah, it's really smart marketing that I don't do nearly enough, which, like I said, is smart. That's why I don't do it.
I've got so many different things of the steps of the process to maximize everything that you need to do in order to, get all the things out. And I was like, there's just not enough time in the day to get it all done, because when you do live streams, then you have to go back in and you've got to trim off all of the garbage at the end, all of the black overhang. And then you got to let it process. And then you got to put your end cards in, and you got to put your ads in. If you're monetized, you got to put your Google ads in and tell it where to interrupt you and that kind of thing.
I don't do any of that. I just let it go at the end of the show.
Yeah, all the back end stuff that takes 3 times as long as it should.
Yeah, it should be easier. And when I do it, I know I'm just clicking buttons and dragging things on, but I'm like,
the thing about it is, though, YouTube changed it, because you used to be about a year and a half ago, you could do it all at once in one pass. And, trim the back end, put the end cards in, drop the ads in, any other kind of links to other videos. If it comes up during the show, back in June, we talked about, you could put everything, you could put all of that in there and then hit save one time and be done. Now you have to trim it, let it process again, and then do everything else. And it takes now, because you do a live stream, that has to get processed. So you got to wait. So the next day you got to do the trim.
Right.
And you got to wait. And then the next day you do this. So now you've got something that takes 3 days, what used to take 15 minutes.
Yeah. And you've lost the immediacy by the time you're done editing.
Right.
So you've got to really just do it to something that's more evergreen.
Right. And all of the back end, because the purpose of the end cards at the end of the video, of the YouTube video, the purpose of the end card is to prompt people to go to the next thing. Well, you can't do that if your live video is processing for 24 hours and then you trim it and it's got to process for another 24 hours before you can put that thing on there.
And the thing that you're trying to link to is probably now in the middle of being processed. So you've got another gap in time there.
Yeah, I've complained to YouTube about it, and there's like, well, sorry you feel that way, but that's the way we're going to do it. It's like, do you realize that you're making it harder for us as creators to get this stuff done? You have now complicated the process and made it much more difficult for us to manage our back end stuff that we've got to do on these things.
What they need, I always, this is my catchphrase, Jason. What they need to do, is if there was something that you could do, and there probably is, because I'm not a video editor. I use video editor that comes with Microsoft Windows. That's if it's not there, I don't do it. But I know that when you're done with StreamYards, you can immediately download from the StreamYard library what you just did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you could obviously trim right there immediately on your machine and re-upload. But if you could do all the end card stuff locally, with some editor.
Even if you're doing the uploads, you still got processing time before you can put anything on there from YouTube, because the links to new stuff, you could put graphics in your video in the editing, but you don't have active links. You don't have anything that you can click to go to the next video. That has to be done there in the YouTube processor, and you can't do that until after the thing's done processing, whether it's an upload or it's a live video.
Right. So there's nothing that's out there software wise where you could say, hey, you want to link to another video after this? Put your window here. What's the URL to where you're linking?
No, that's all the YouTube API.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
They've got us. And they know they're the only game in town other than, Rumble. I know Rumble's
we've done okay with Odyssey. I've had
Odyssey is another place you guys
good experiences with Odyssey so far. We haven't done Rumble yet. We're on Rumble. YouTube gets ported to Rumble. We're not doing anything live to Rumble yet. That costs us money, and we haven't spent the money on it yet.
Yeah, we're in the same boat here. I just I never visit it. I don't know what it's doing, but I turned on the go check my YouTube channel every night and pull over the new stuff thing.
Yeah,
and it does that.
We've got 98 subscribers on Rumble. We've got 224 on Odyssey, and we're sitting at 2183 on YouTube.
You should have so many more on YouTube.
Oh, I know.
Because you're like just a couple of hundred ahead of me, and I'm nothing. This is not the show people tune into.
And I've got Culture Casino telling me and tells his audience we are criminally undersubscribed.
Yeah.
And I go back to the theory that I've had for a while that one of the reasons why we haven't taken off, I guess you could say, is one, our channel is a mix of live and upload, because we'll carve out Salacious Crumbs and Triple Bites used to be live shows.
Right.
But now there's segments inside Good Morning Multiverse. And so after we get done with that, we'll pull those out and then we upload those separate. We upload the horror segment from Saturday morning separate. Some different things we'll take out in interviews. If we do interviews, we'll pull those out and they become their own thing. So we're a mix of live and upload, and the algorithm doesn't know what to do with this. And then we're not doing shorts. So the algorithm doesn't like us because they don't want us to do, they want us to do shorts and nothing else. But shorts doesn't do us any good because YouTube doesn't have the recommendations set up to where if I watch a short from your channel, I ought to be able to get a recommendation to watch a longer video from your channel. And the shorts won't work that way. They want to keep you looking. They want to keep you watching shorts. So they'll recommend the recommendations they'll send other shorts, but not any of the longer stuff. So say you've got 5 or 6 shorts, right? And if I watch one, it'll feed me the next one, it'll feed me the next one. And then when I'm done with your 5 shorts, it's going to send me to somebody else's shorts instead of your 2-hour thing that you did on Saturday, that kind of thing.
Well, it's the attention span thing. And Howard Warshaw talked with both of us about this. Yeah. Where he said, people won't sit down to watch a 2.5-hour movie because it's too much of a commitment, but they'll watch 4 hours of shorts in a single sitting. And that's why YouTube does it, because they know that they got a better chance of keeping the eyeballs on the screen.
Well, and the other thing too, I mean, Jared, they're talking about emotion. The other thing too is we're not rage bait. We're not an angry channel. We're not.
That's exactly what he's talking about here.
About everything. So, I have my thoughts. I have my feelings. I do my rants and stuff on Live from the Bunker, but I also have to maintain a little brand and neutrality because there are other people on staff here. We don't always agree on everything. And we're not going to dive into political culture war type stuff on our social media stuff because it's the brand, not any particular person. Now you look at, some of the other channels, Culture Casino, that's his channel. That's his brand. Ethan Van Sciver, that's his thing.
Yeah.
So all of his social media is him. It's not his brand. It's not a bunch of different people. Geeks and Gamers is probably the other equivalent to all of that. And Geeks and Gamers is Jeremy. You've got other people that are part of that operation, but they each have their own presence. Krista Nova's got her own social media. Drunk 3PO's got his own social media and all of that. So they go out and they all do all their promotion. Well, the SciFi4Me brand is pretty much the only thing that's out promoting SciFi4Me. So I've got to be careful about how we, navigate all of that. And that cuts into it too.
Just jump in there and champion those sad puppies all the way. And I don't know if that drives clicks or not.
Yeah.
And people not familiar with science fiction have no idea why I said what I just said.
I will say this. Last June, we broke Twitter.
I remember. That was.
I'm not going to get too far into the details on that one, but last June we broke Twitter with an interview that we did with Ernie Gygax.
Yeah.
And somebody decided to take one little snippet. It was an hour-long video, and somebody took one little snippet of something that he said out of context because he was talking about what other people said. Other people think this, but they took that part and they made it to where he's saying it and how terrible is all this, yada, yada. And it broke everything. That video went 16,000, 17,000 views. And I figured, okay, well, this is going to take off or it's going to get us banned off of YouTube one way or the other. Neither one happened. But it got ugly to the point where the new TSR and Giant Lands, which was developing a new game with TSR, split and weren't going to have anything to do with each other now because of all of this. And the internet blow up was such that the new TSR got banned from gaming conventions, including Gary Con, which is named named after Ernie's dad, Gary Gygax. Yeah. It got ugly
over a thing that wasn't true.
Exactly. Over something, somebody said something and made it out to be something else. And I was like,
we're seeing the same thing happen with and I know you keep on top of all this stuff. So the deal going on with Mike Barron's latest book, Private American.
Same kind of thing.
Somebody at Daily Kos said this book is this. I'm like, this book's not published yet. But they rallied the troops to not only get them suspended off of Kickstarter, but this afternoon they were suspended off of Crowdfunder because they put all the links out there with the emails and said, and literally I quote, "You know what to do."
Yeah. And that's gonna continue. And I think you see, people like Eric July and Mandy Summers and Michael Bancroft have started this already, where we're just going to do our own site and we're just going to crowdfund through our own thing. I think Bancroft is using a Shopify tool on his website. I don't know how Mandy got hers set up, or I don't know what Eric did, but you look at what Eric did. How many millions of dollars he did, and it's all on his website. He doesn't have. Yes, he had to fight the PayPal thing, but
that was just PayPal seeing a huge spike of funds for a guy that didn't have anything before.
Right,
and look at this.
But that was part of it. I think that there were some people at PayPal who were doing the political thing like we've seen at Kickstarter and every place else. And we're starting.
Luke Stone is launching. Luke Stone is launching a Fund My Comic crowdfunding site. So,
and I think you're going to start to see a lot more of that. You're going to see people sit there and go, well, I don't need Indiegogo, because the tools are out there. I mean, we've got on our site, there's a WordPress plugin, and you can do, I think it's called WooBox. And, there's a number of different things. Shopify is one. You've got, different market.
If you have a PayPal account, you have a PayPal store, comes with it. It's got buttons and everything.
Yeah, we don't have a PayPal account anymore. We got rid of ours because that whole $2,500 fee is still there. And
it's reworded it, but the fee is still there.
We're not going to have anything to do with this. We're not doing PayPal. Now my bank is starting to do some work with Zelle, which is a new one. So, I was like, well, if my bank is okay with it, I'll look into it. That might be an option, but
I've had it for a couple of years now.
I'm just like, if we start selling merch, we'll just set up our own store on our .com and be done with it. because
there you go.
And what goes around comes around, right? What were we all doing in the 90s? We were all setting up our own websites, right? And everything was on our own space. And we're getting out of everything being on social media, and we're going back to the .coms and having our own space. And yes, I do think I think Ripa got his money finally.
He did. He got all his money.
Yeah.
Woody's deleted his PayPal. I kept mine. I have faith that I know what it is that they're trying to look at that for. But the funny thing is that I have a day job. I work with data science for a bank, and I talk with people who are familiar with banking rules and such, and I'm like, and I know PayPal's supposed to be a payment processor, but at the same time, I also have a direct deposit to PayPal like a bank. I know that they're Wells Fargo, which is definitely a bank. And I'm like, do we have anything at all in our rules that says if a customer does something wrong, we take money from them? Usually when there's, a fine applied, it's the bank that gets fined for
and
customers get arrested.
And the way that the PayPal rules read, and the way I would expect most banking facilities and financial institutions say, is if you're doing something money wise that's illegal or fraudulent or something that involves your bank account and us, and you're doing something you aren't supposed to, then we'll freeze your account, or we'll fine you or penalize you or whatever. But PayPal,
they won't penalize you.
Well, PayPal took it to the point where, and yes, I get it. It was a draft, but the very fact that somebody was actually considering it to the point where they were about to publish it, if they hadn't gotten caught, they would have put it in there and nobody would have been the wiser until somebody had triggered it. We don't like what you posted. We're going to freeze your account. We're going to fine you $2,500. Well, it's the same kind of thing like what we saw up in Canada with the trucker convoy, where, Trudeau sets up all these emergency powers and whatnot, and gives the banks, gives the financial institutions the authority to freeze the account of anybody that was associated with the convoy, whether they were in the convoy or whether they just posted social media stuff in support of the convoy.
Yeah, that was
and that didn't go over well, but that's what they want. That's one of the reasons why you got this FTX deal. Well, crypto obviously has to be regulated by the government, and so we have to do this digital dollar that's issued by the government so we can control it. We can control the value, we can control how much you have, we can control how you spend it, we control your access to it. That's the goal. Here's
the other thing that they're putting on it, and I know that it was in a Chinese cryptocurrency, or not cryptocurrency, but digital currency, an expiration date. It was a use it or lose it kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
and they would like nothing more than to do that here, because through that they can control what you do, and they would like nothing more than to control everything that you do, all of your access, your travel, your privileges, your discretionary income, where you live, what you drive, what you eat, all of that stuff.
It's all tracked. They'll know where you are because where you're spending your money. I've noticed on my I've got the Walmart app, because guess what? Sometimes I don't want to get out of the house and I just want them to bring it to me, and I'll order something like printer cartridges. That's And I went back to say, okay, my printer cartridge is out. I'll go into my previous orders and reorder it. It was hard to find because my first previous order was, cat treats, milk, and beer. I'm like, I didn't order. And turns out if you use the same credit card in the store as you do on the app, they track all your purchases in the store. And
it's even more insidious than that. I did a thing for a while. I went down in Bentonville. I shot some video at some workshops. Let me know
next time you do that. I'm right here.
Well, it's been a while since I've been down there. My contact isn't working for that particular company anymore. But they brought me down, and I would shoot some workshops that they would have for people who wanted to get their product into Walmart. Here's what you got to do. Here's the plan that you have to have. Here's how many product you got to have. You got to have the manufacturing, here's your process, all that. one in particular talks about how Walmart uses the cloud and geofencing and all sorts of, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all these different things to basically track everything that you do.
Yeah.
And it's, like say I'm driving within half a mile of Walmart number 3208 over on Main Street, right?
Yep.
Well, Walmart set it up to where if I'm looking at my Instagram, I get a Walmart ad for store number 3278 over here on Main Street. And
you're near there.
And it's going to serve me up an ad for Heinz 57 sauce because I just bought Heinz 57 sauce 3 weeks ago.
You're probably out now.
It knows that I buy a Heinz 57 sauce every 3 weeks, so it's going to serve me up an ad. That's how insidious this stuff gets.
Oh,
It tracks your movement, tracks your behavior, it tracks everything, and then it says
outside of Walmart, I'll say this because I got 2 laptops on this station right here. I've got my working station over here, and I got my other one here, and my phone is always sitting here.
Yeah.
I've seen this happen at least twice now. Once when we were, my ex and I were driving past a mathnasium, and I just pointed at it and I said, we should maybe think about enrolling our son here to help him. And she says, no, we're doing fine with the homeschooling.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter started sending me mathnasium promoted ads. And I hadn't even said anything about it. The other one was I was sitting over here on this machine doing, the daily job. And we were working with IBM Watson and working on, text to speech to text kind of things to look for keywords, customer service, that stuff.
Yeah.
This machine's open, phone's right here. My personal Twitter account suddenly starts sending me IBM Watson messages. Like, you guys are listening. All the only way it knows if you say, hey, Siri, is it's got to be listening all the time for it.
Yep. That's one of the reasons I don't have that kind of I don't have any of that kind of app on my phone. Now I know Facebook and Google and I don't use Google for a search engine. I use Brave most of the time, DuckDuckGo. But I don't use Google, and I know Facebook listens to the stuff, and I know Twitter listens to the stuff, and I know for a fact that Google does, because when we got to the point where our website was too big to be hosted on WordPress anymore because of all the media we upload, we started looking for another hosting company. And for a while, all this is back and forth on Gmail, and the discussion turned to HostGator was starting to look like the best option at the time. I was like, okay, well, here's HostGator, and this is before I knew about 1&1. And as soon as we started talking about HostGator, I started seeing ads for HostGator on Facebook and on YouTube and on Instagram, all the social media. I was like, what is this? And it can, that's what convinced me that the social media sphere has turned us into the product, and we're being monitored 24/7. It used to be a joke. The CIA was listening in, or the NSA was listening in. Now we just say, hey, surveillance device, buy me tickets to the movies, that kind of thing. I mean, we've invited it in.
Yeah. Well, I joke about it, and I say, if in 1965, somebody had approached our parents and said, hey, we want to give you this box that will tell us where you are all the time.
Yeah.
And we'd like to swab your mouth so we can put your DNA in a database. And we're not going to, we just want to take it from you and put it away, and then we'll be gone. They'd have been run off with shotguns. And now it's like, hey, we want to give you a box in exchange for $850 or more, plus a monthly service fee. And, oh, by the way, for $99, we'll take a swab of your mouth and put you in a database. If we pay for it, we're happy to. it's an insidious little trick that they pulled on us there to take our money along with our freedom.
Yeah. Well, and I have, and I'm watching a little bit on the chat there about the situation with Gabe El-Tayeb and his Dave Williams, his co-owner on this thing. That's a lot. That situation is a lot more complicated than all of that is, because
it is, and
but
I'm not sure where to fall down on that one yet.
Well, I do. I'm staying out of it.
That's the place to fall down on it.
Watch it from the sidelines and say, and hope it all works out. Wish them well. Don't get involved, because and that's the kind of thing. You talk about social media and the radicalization. It's all of a piece, right? Because you have Facebook and you have YouTube and all these different things, and all of it goes into building conflict, encouraging conflict, escalating conflict. We don't want everybody talking to each other. We don't want everybody coordinating and communicating with each other. We want you fighting with each other, so you're not paying attention to the FBI and the Department of Defense using Twitter as a propaganda tool. Because when you start paying attention, you're going to get mad, and you're not going to get mad at your neighbor. You're not going to get mad at the black guy down the street. You're not going to get mad at the transgender person with the rainbow color mohawk. You're going to get mad at the government who's supposed to be working for you. And when that happens, Katie bar the door. When enough people realize just how social media has been weaponized against the citizens of the country, you better bet there are going to be some angry people. There already are. There's just not enough of us that know what's going on to sit there and say, we have had enough of this. But
do you think enough people ever will, or are we sedated to the point that we don't?
I think we will. I think we'll get to that point. I think that's one of the reasons why Elon's been rolling these Twitter files things out as he's been doing it. It's a process of discovery. There are people who have been paying attention to all of this, who know this kind of stuff has been going on, but we've never had proof, right? And then you have the people who are completely ignorant and blind to the whole thing. They now have to go through this process of learning about all of this stuff. And they're getting their minds blown if they're paying attention. That's the other key. But they sit there and go, wait, the FBI did what?
Yeah,
because we all knew
the next day is all you did. That was nothing. You didn't see anything.
We all knew that the laptop was real. And those of us who were paying attention, we knew that the FBI had the laptop for at least a year before the New York Post reported on it. And now it's coming out, all of this stuff, the fact that the FBI, the fact that Twitter got $3.4 million for coordinating with the FBI to suppress speech
because they knew it would impact the election.
Yeah. That's called election tampering, and that's illegal. And if people do not go to jail for this, the republic is lost. I don't care how many hearings that the Republicans can have in the House, all of the committee, you can have committee hearing after committee hearing after committee hearing. People need to go to jail for this.
But who's going to arrest them? Because the people who do the arresting are the people that would be getting arrested.
That's the question.
Who's going to be Robespierre?
I mean, in a perfect world, maybe federal marshals, the U.S. Marshals could do it. I don't know who's got the authority to arrest agents of the FBI. I would think it'd be the U.S. Marshals, but I'd have to look into that. I don't know who has jurisdiction. Send the Texas Rangers after them. They can do it.
There you go. Oh, Mr. Exner, you're depressing me. That can't be true. Let's hope that's not true.
I don't think we're going to get that bad. The tribalism is still there, and it's encouraged by social media quite a bit, but I think there are enough people who recognize what they're trying to do to us. And that's the other thing. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and I'm thinking, I don't want to run for office, but coming in 2023, I imagine that I'm probably going to get a little bit more involved in local politics, because that's where it starts. That's where you can affect change. You can't maybe change it on the national level as much, but I can work on somebody's campaign for mayor. I can work on somebody's campaign for city council and start there, because that's where you start, the municipalities and the counties, and flip them red. And enough people do that all across the country. And then, maybe not necessarily in any kind of a coordinated thing, but it's little by little, piece by piece. That's how it's like eating an elephant. You just do it one bite at a time. And that's how we have to approach some of this stuff.
Oh, we have veered way off course from SciFi4Me TV. And I remember
which is fine, because I don't get to talk about this stuff on SciFi4Me TV because it's not in our wheelhouse.
Sure, come dump it over here. Come on.
I'll get you demonetized instead of us. That's right.
What are we gonna do with this old mattress? Drive over to Critical Blast, dump it off over there.
Right. Put some gasoline on it while we're at it. Yeah.
My friend George does a nightly news show where they roast the news. They put up headlines and funny stuff, and they've had to replace the CV-19 word with potato chip because every time they talked about it, they would get demonetized or flagged or taken down. So they're like, we need to just have a code word for this.
Doug Tenaple did a thing here not too long ago. He posted that he's got a thumbnail for a video that he did talking about the situation with Kerry Lake and Scott, that with the governor's race in Georgia, in Arizona, right? And he said when he put up the thumbnail that had Kerry Lake's photo on it, the video was demonetized. But he takes Kerry Lake's photo off of it, and the video is monetized again. I mean, it's that kind of crap that regular normal people don't see because they're not making all of this stuff.
That's another mess too.
Behind the scenes.
I watched the live trial today on that, and the guy was testifying, basically 19-inch ballots cast onto a 20-inch page. That's important for the ballot reader because those little markers have to be exactly so far apart for the thing to read it.
Right.
So it's like they interviewed him for 20 to 25 minutes just about how that's possible. How can these changes be set? I know what printers are. I know how they're set. No, you don't bump them and suddenly they're 19 inches instead of 20. You go in and you change the settings.
That's a manual change. Yeah.
So the cross exam comes up and they're like, "Are you a detail oriented person?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, you have to be." And then they go off and on some, esoteric law. Like, do you know if that's a federal law or a state law? Well, I thought details were important to you. I'm like, what's that got to do with changing printer settings? The guy's an IT expert.
Well, and you had some of the ballots that weren't printed dark enough for the scanners to read them.
Right.
And they said what 42%, I think, out of the samples that they looked at, 40% of them were invalid ballots.
And by the way, the sample he had was somewhere between 300 and 400 ballots for a whole state.
And imagine what that is cross. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's a mess. It's a mess. But it's also, I think, calculated to try to drive federalization of the election process, which would make it a whole lot easier to cheat.
Yeah.
You think it's bad now. If the federal government was in charge of our election process, then we're done, because the first thing they do is get rid of the Electoral College and campaign finance reform. What's that? All of that stuff would be out the window. And I think
even need to. I mean, if the Secretary of State can run for governor without stepping down from her office first,
right?
Yeah, it's like, let's have an election. I'll count the votes.
Yeah, right. I'm just like, hold on. She didn't recuse herself. Okay, this is automatically suspect for me.
Exactly. It's oh my god. SciFi4MeTV.com. SciFi4Me.tv.
Yes.
Now, you had mentioned you met Mindy.
Let's cover our actual topic tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. You met Mindy and then whisked her off on a whirlwind romantic tour of WorldCon. So SciFi4Me was already in existence before you guys.
Yeah, we started in 2009, March of 2009, and it came out of frustration from a lot of people when the Sci-Fi Channel changed their brand to Sci-Fi. And the discussion then was, the suspicion was that the Sci-Fi Channel was getting ready to go away and be another USA Network type of thing, because they had the wrestling and they had the ghost hunter stuff and the
Yeah, they
that
did.
And I was on various different discussion forums, and I said, well, what if somebody else built another Sci-Fi Channel? And the more I thought about it, the more I think, this is back again, 2009. Netflix wasn't streaming. Nobody was streaming yet. Streaming wasn't even a thing yet. You had YouTube, and that was it, Vimeo. And I said, well, what if somebody built a Sci-Fi Channel and it was online? And people were like, well, I'd watch it. So that was the beginning of the idea, and Sci-Fi4Me became, me is the proxy for everybody else. This is science fiction for me. And by that, it's real science fiction. It's not wrestling. It's not a cooking show. It's not, reality shows or whatnot. And the original idea was to build a site online where we'd have the TV station with, movies and TV shows and original programming and whatnot, but also licensed libraries so we could show movies and do, like the Saturday night movie, that kind of thing.
Where are these at? I'm missing these shows.
Well, we don't have them because that takes money. But also, you have the radio station and you have the newspaper and magazine. So we'd have the news articles and the reviews, and we'd have the podcasts, we'd have the TV shows, all of these different things, and also have the bulletin board discussion rooms where people have. So basically, if you look at the old town square, right, you have you have the radio station and the TV station and the newspaper is there, and you'd have your community center and you'd have your library over here and you have your movie theater. And so basically taking all of those things as sections of the .com. And we started for a while, and I need to get back to it. One of the things I want to try to do is build up that library, was basically take a lot of stuff from Project Gutenberg, which was the public domain novels, literature that's in the public domain now.
Right.
Download those, reformat them into our own Sci-Fi4Me edition of
Trade Dressed,
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Gulliver's Travels, those kind of things. So you could go to the Sci-Fi4Me library and you could download a free book. Or we go and do through CreateSpace on Amazon, and we, create our new covers, and you could do a print on demand, a Sci-Fi4Me edition of Frankenstein, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And eventually
had the right trade dress to it.
Yeah. Eventually we'll get back to doing that. But again, time, manpower, money. And,
One of you.
in the process of all of that, I'm just like, well, okay, it's at some point we'll be like that, but it's evolved, depending on how many people that I've got. It's all volunteer. I can't pay anybody. We don't have any money. And it's just kind of making it up as we go. And things have evolved over the years. And, when Facebook decided everything's got to be video, of course, we pivoted to video like everybody else did. And we've kind of been playing catch up, trying to get our .com back up to speed. But most of the stuff we do is video production now anyway, because it's faster.
Yeah,
we can do more with it.
All of my interviews are video now.
Yeah. So all of our shows, live here on YouTube. And then, we just keep expanding the roster of that. At one point, I think we were doing 8 different shows at once. We're not doing that many right now, but I think we're currently in production on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we've got 4 in the works to bring them back for 2023. So, between 8 and 10 shows in production at any given time in 2023, we're going to be busy.
I can tell. And you guys have a wide variety of shows. And at the same time, they're all presented with a consistent look and feel to them, which I think is important for a channel like yours, so that people know where they're at when they come and watch one of your shows.
Yeah, well, and that's part of that whole approach, that this is a TV station that happens to be on YouTube. It's not because I think there's a mental switch that gets flipped when you look at it as, oh, well, it's just a YouTube channel. It's just this thing that I do. And it's kind of like the difference between your local TV station and your local access cable channel, right? Because that's what YouTube has become. YouTube has become the modern day era local access cable channel.
Wayne and Garth were streaming before any of us.
Exactly. Anybody can make a show. Anybody can do whatever. It doesn't have to be high production value. You don't have to put a whole lot of money into it. It's you and a camera and the internet and go. And there's a liberating quality to that. There's a democratization of that where anybody can do it. The flip side of that is anybody can do it. And so the quality is going to vary depending on where everything is. And as far as that question goes on Star Trek Continues, I don't think that we could do something like that. Well, let me qualify that. Star Trek Continues being a fan film, we could probably run it on our show. If there was an arrangement to broadcast it, we probably could. But they've got their own channel and they've got their own stuff that they do. Now, with regard to something like Dust, yeah, we could do stuff like that and have actually talked about setting up a process where if you've got a short film or if you've got a not necessarily a fan film. I've tended to lean away from that. But if you've got a short film or if you've got a movie or if you got a TV series or something that you don't have a home for, then yeah, we could do some kind of a deal where but again, you get into there needs to be money. And there needs to be money involved, whether it's prize money or if it's just some kind of, first broadcast rights compensation or something like that. I don't want to do things for free. I don't want to sit there and say, yeah, we'll pay you an exposure. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to understand and say, you're writing an article for me. Here you go. 8 cents a word. You're doing a short film. I'll pay you 150. I'm pulling numbers out of thin air.
Sure, they mean nothing.
I'll pay $150 for the exclusive rights for the first 6 months. Those kind of
things. Don't hold him to this, folks.
No, but that's the kind of thing that I want to do, and we don't have the money to do it. It's
yeah.
Now streaming is kind of coming full circle. They got these things called fast channels, right? Free ad supported television. Which back when we were younger, it was called television, right? It was terrestrial TV, and you turn on the TV and you flip the channel and you watch TV, and there were commercials, and you didn't have to pay for it. And now the only difference is it's a streaming thing like Tubi or Pluto. That kind of thing.
Hart Fisher's got AmericanHorrors.net.
Yeah, I mean they're all over the place. But see, and I would love to have a channel like that. But again, you got to have the revenue. We have the advertisers.
There's
and
all this
the advertisers without the audience.
But there's a lot of science fiction film that has fallen into public domain.
Yeah, and
which doesn't stop YouTube from striking you on it because somebody in Brazil will have it on their channel and claim it.
Ad Rev in LA will do it. But even with the public domain stuff, there's still an expense in obtaining the copies because I talked to Desert Island Films one time about getting a copy of their library, and they've got all sorts of stuff that's in the public domain. I mean, B and C level movie stuff, and I'm thinking we could do something like Joe Bob Briggs does, right? You get some really cheap drive-in theater schlock stuff, right? And I figured, okay, if we get this number of titles, this many titles in the science fiction genre, horror genre, it cost me $1,500 because they have to take those films and they have to put them on some kind of medium, whether it's a thumb drive or a CD or DVD drive or something, and send them to me. So you got to pay for the process of obtaining the copy of the public domain work. So you're not paying for a license, but you still have to pay for the process to get a copy that you can have that you can put out there somewhere. So,
not downloadable?
No. Well, I mean, again, this was 2009, 2010 when I was looking into this stuff. So it
I was
could
gonna
be
say,
different now, but you still have to pay the fee to get the copy. You know,
yeah,
you've
'cause my
got to
friend
pay,
George,
processing stuff.
like I said, George Peter Gatzis does that news show every night, but every Friday and Saturday
Right.
he does the mystery movie thing.
Yeah,
And
but
he's
even
showing
then,
Charlie
he's
Chan.
got to do editing on it because of all of the copyright dings, and I don't want to do that. You know, if you're going to give me Day of the Triffids, I want to run Day of the Triffids. I don't want to
You don't
run
wanna-
Day of the Triffids Sci-Fi for Me edition, you know, edited for content. I want to just run the movie. And YouTube won't let me do it, but I could probably do it over on Odyssey. I could probably do it
Yeah.
on Rumble. And if it's a public domain work, and I put a little card up at the beginning that says, this is in the public domain, nobody owns the copyright. We have every right to broadcast this. Enjoy, have fun, roll the tape.
Well, you know, there was an issue that George did run into with because remember, movies are a mixed media kind of thing. He played the ghost in the invisible bikini, which, you know, totally public domain, one of Boris Karloff's final films.
Yeah.
But there's a scene where Jane Fonda, not Jane Fonda, Nancy Sinatra sings a song. Well, the movie's in the public domain. Guess what? The song's not.
The song's not. Yeah. Yeah.
So he had to overdub it with different music.
Yeah. And to answer the question of what I do for a living, I'm in media production. Yeah. I've spent the last 34 years in media in some form or fashion. I started in college radio. I've done television production. I've worked at 2 ABC affiliates in my time. I've done newspaper. I've done motion picture. I've made a feature film. I've made several short films. I've owned an advertising agency at one point. I've worked for different PR companies. So my current line of work right now is split between making TV commercials and web videos for local clients and doing stagehand work. So going in with the crews and setting up for concerts and setting up for, we just packed up Jurassic World, the big traveling arena shows and those kind of things. So, and then I also do work as an AV tech. So if there's a big trade show coming in and you got to set up the computers and the TVs in the booths for the different things, they'll call me and I'll go in and I'll do that. Or, there's here not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, I helped set up a corporate event that was the big party for the end of the year. And they had a concert and I ran a camera for the concert and then we pulled everything apart the next day. So yeah, my day job is variable.
Yeah,
you could say,
but
it does
that's
give me time to do this.
Yeah, and that's what makes this so professional. I mean, when people decide that, you know what, I've got stuff to say, I can do a podcast. It's a trip to Walmart to buy a microphone, mid-range laptop. Do I get a webcam or do I use one in here? And then hang a curtain.
Yeah.
Crap, I just gave it all away. Whereas you are like, no, I know that, this has to be set up this. We got to handle this impedance factor here. We got to have so many feet of cable. This is the kind of mic to have. You've got a boom mic, freaking boom mic sitting there in front of you. This is not something that your average podcaster has. Yeah.
Well, and to be fair, a lot of this equipment I already had because the nature of my work is such that I already had a lot of this stuff. And some of these microphones go back to my days of doing live radio theater, where we would take scripts from radio shows, and we would do. I don't know if you remember Alien Voices with Leonard Nimoy and John Delancey, where they would take like Edgar Allan Poe and stuff. And they're reading the scripts on stage. We did the same kind of thing. Look it up. It's brilliant stuff.
But that's something that people could do now because a lot of those radio scripts
about doing it. Yeah, and we've talked about doing it. But you could do original adaptations of stuff too. Because when we were doing it, two of the big ones that we did an original adaptation of the Wonderful Wizard of Oz by taking the actual book, and I wrote a new script based on the book. It wasn't the movie.
Yeah, it
a
was a
lot
radio play.
a lot of the performances were based off of how the movie, because that's what people expect, right? Oh, it's a radio show. They're doing the Wizard of Oz, and they expect it to sound like the movie did.
They
Well,
expect it to sound like Red Bulger did.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and for a while, I had pretty closely nailed the voice of the gatekeeper at the Emerald City.
Yeah.
You know, the
No
guy.
one gets in to see the wizard. No one, not know how.
Well, that's a horse of another color. You know, that guy.
Yeah.
You know, and I had that thing just almost perfect. The other one that we did was an original adaptation of The Lone Ranger. We had a nonprofit little theater company, and I tracked down the people who owned the rights. Turns out it was Broadway Video, which is Lorne Michaels in New York.
Okay. Saturday Night Live.
I sent him a letter and said, we're this brand new theater company. We're nonprofit. We've got no budget, with nothing to do. Here's what we want to do. And I say, we'd like to do a live staged reading of the first episode of the Lone Ranger radio show. And I didn't expect to hear anything back. And a few weeks later, I get this packet in the mail, and it's the first 5 shooting scripts of the TV show from Clayton Moore's time.
Wow.
And they've got notes on them. These are photocopies of the actual shooting scripts.
Oh God.
And I'm like, this is kind of cool, because it's like pencil notes on the pages and stuff. This is they shot. This is the script.
Yeah.
And so we took that, and we took the radio program and the TV show. We kind of merged them together into a brand new script. And we performed the Lone Ranger on stage, and we had 3 different scripts that we could use because we had that much material that they just sent it. And they said, here you go, have fun. But it's that kind of thing. I would love to be able to do that kind of thing on the regular, get into a stage somewhere, bring in an audience, have all of the performers there live and the sound effects live. I've still got my wooden bowls for horses' hooves.
But you don't use coconuts? Come on, that's heresy.
Well, we're in the middle of the Midwest. We couldn't get coconuts, but excuse me. Anyway, but yeah, it's that kind of thing. I would love to be able to do that. And I actually talked to John Delancey about it. He plays Q on Star Trek. And this was after Leonard Nimoy had passed. And I was asking, I was like, is there any chance at all is Alien Voices ever coming back? And he said, probably not. And the main reason was that he ended up becoming too much of a salesperson to sell the DVDs out at the conventions and whatnot. And not just, I'm an actor, I want to perform, I don't want to handle all of the back end stuff.
Right.
And I said, well, what if somebody paid a licensing fee for the naming, for Alien Voice, and kept the Alien Voices stuff going? And he said, I would love for somebody to do that. I would love to see Alien Voices continue, but I'm not going to be the one to do it. And I thought, if only I had money. And that goes back to everything else. And Mindy and I talk about this all the time. There are 3 things: money, time, manpower, and money will get you the other 2.
Yes.
And if you don't have the money, then you've got all of these. I've got 30 pages of notes of stuff that I would like to do here, but it costs. And you either got to pay somebody to do it, or you have to buy it, or, something somewhere where money is going to have to exchange hands.
And you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for.
We publish, and when I did our first anthology, the Gods and Services one, my initial thought was, we ain't got no money, we can print on demand. We'll be one of those, you get a copy kind of things if you want to participate.
Yeah.
And fortunately, the guy who runs Rayland.org said, this is really how you want to do it. I was like, it's all I can do, give him a couple of copies. Like, you got 5 copies on here as author reward. Says, what if you could you afford $20 and 1 copy? I'm like, I did the math. I'm like 10 stories, $20, $200. Yeah, I could do that. He's like, that's a lot cheaper than 5 books per person.
Mhm.
And it's a cash payout so that they can claim it as a paid credit,
Yeah.
and not a token credit. I'm like, and I've been doing it that way ever since.
Yeah, and I've been talking with people here for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now that I would love to do a print magazine. You and I have talked about this. I
Yeah,
I
the next
want
Starlog.
I want to do the next Starlog. Exactly. I want to take what Starlog did back in the day and bring it back, not as Starlog. I can't get that. I've
Yeah,
had
bring
that
it back at
conversation.
SciFi4Me.
But yeah, that's the goal is to do a print magazine, kind of like, well, when they brought Fangoria back. Fangoria is back as a quarterly printed book. That's what, 60, 70, 80 pages. And they're doing just fine. And I had conversations with them 2 owners back. And I said, okay, well, you're reviving Fangoria. Does that mean Starlog's coming back at some point? And they had discussions about doing something electronically, but Starlog's never come back. And I would like nothing more. If I had the money and if I knew that they would go for it, I would buy the Starlog name and I would revive Starlog magazine because I know it'll sell.
Yeah, people want it.
But I don't have that. So
you're doing it wrong. You got to start a religion first. That's where the money's at.
Yeah.
As Hubbard said, if you want to be a millionaire, start a religion, and then you went off and proved it.
Well, and I look at lots of different processes and methods for generating revenue and money, not just in the sci-fi sphere, but in a lot of the different things. I'm always getting these small business workshops and financial manners and things. And I'm thinking the biggest thing is cash flow. We've got to have money coming in on a regular basis in order to cover whatever expenses we got, whether it's a print magazine or if it's paying our contributors or money for a contest or something like that, or travel to a convention. If we're going to go and we're going to cover C2E2 in Chicago, that costs money. I want sponsors for our live broadcast from the floor of Dragon Con. I've been talking to Stuckey's about doing that because Stuckey's is back. Stephanie Stuckey bought the company back. And so now the family owns it again and she's rebuilding Stuckey's pretty much from the ground up.
There's one between here and St. Louis on Highway 40.
And she's building it back up. She's getting them in the convenience store. She's getting the product back out there. And I'm like, what would be a better fit? Traveling to a convention, let's stop at Stuckey's. And that kind of thing, it's that kind of thing. I want to get more of that too, but it's again, legwork, phone calls, emails, but we don't have the audience that's big enough to attract the advertisers. It's chicken and egg stuff.
Yes.
You got to spend money to get the audience bigger. And where do you get the money? Get the money from the, you got, it's and the audience, the advertisers won't come with the money if your audience isn't big enough.
Well, it's like you said, SciFi4Me is criminally undersubscribed. So people do hit the link and hit the subscribe button when you get there because
we've gained one tonight. We're at 2184 now. So whoever
we did something.
We did it. Yeah.
I did not expect to get to play this tonight, but now that you've said that one of your subs has gone up, we'll have ourselves a little shake and bake moment here on the show, and it goes a little something like this.
It's shake and bake, and I help.
We helped. Thank you, subscriber in the audience, for subscribing over to Jason's show.
Yeah.
Every inch by inch, it's a cinch.
Yeah. I mean, we've even made the joke that we're going to set up an OnlyFans using the office dogs, but like, no, we're not that desperate yet.
Just set up an OnlyFans and just have it be nothing but a camera on oscillating fans.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. What did you expect?
The dogs. Okay, so this is how crazy it is, and I look at this, and I look at Mindy and I say we're in the wrong business because you look at somebody like Amaranth, for example, right?
Mindy's
Amaranth-
seriously considering it.
Yeah, well, we talked about it. Amaranth had a stream here not too long ago on Twitch. She was asleep.
Yeah.
In flannel pajamas. I mean, nothing even provocative or anything like that. She's asleep. And she's been streaming for 10 and a half hours. So I'm assuming that she did some gaming or whatnot before that. But she's asleep. And she's got 25,000 people watching her sleep. And I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, what is this?
And they're giving tips, by the way.
And they're giving tips. And she's making money sleeping with people watching you. She got 25,000 people watching her sleep. And she's making money and she's not doing anything.
See, you need to be broadcasting from a ball pit.
I'm like, we're in the wrong business. Yeah, DashCon, the next DashCon on SciFi4Me, right? I was just like,
yeah, it's
stuff. But we do have plans for Twitch. One of the things that derailed us on that was the fact that Twitch, and a lot of people don't understand this, and I've tried to tell Michael Bancroft this. Twitch, in their terms of service, they require that anything you stream to Twitch stays exclusive to Twitch for the first 24 hours.
Oh.
Which I heard this and I thought, really? So I reached out and I contacted Twitch and I said, I want to make sure that I understand this right. You want everything to be exclusive the first 24 hours on Twitch? They said, yes. Which means I can't simulcast any of my shows to Twitch at the same time I'm sending them anywhere else.
You mean like we are right now?
Like we are right now. If I'm doing this, like say, well, like with any of our programs, if they're live, live from the bunker, Good Morning Multiverse H2O, we send them to YouTube, to Odyssey, and to Facebook live all the time, simulcast, all three. And then when you and I do Blast from the Bunker, it goes to our YouTube and our Odyssey channels. It goes to your YouTube channel.
Sure.
I can't do that JR. With Twitch.
No. And I don't get anything from Twitch anyway. I get 0.1 viewers every time I do Twitch. I'm like,
we've got 103 followers over there. We're planning on doing some new stuff with game coverage and that kind of thing. One of the shows that we're going to bring back is going to be in the gaming sphere. And we've got some new people that are coming on board as volunteers that are in that world
where it's at.
More than I am. I mean, I peaked at the Atari 2600, so I don't know anything about any of this stuff. But we've got.
You're right. We will watch women sleep. It's long known fact. We will watch women. We will think about women doing nothing.
Make any sense to me. I mean, don't you have anything better to? And I get it. I'm doing the same thing because I'm trying to figure out. Okay, and I'll look at other channels. I'll look at all of these.
I was going to say, why are you watching Amaranth's channel?
I'm trying to find patterns. I'm trying to find, okay, what is this channel doing? Whether it's Amaranth or Garrett Nerdrotic or what is this channel doing? And what piece can I take away from it that maybe I can incorporate in our channel to grow our audience? I'm looking for those nuggets. Of, okay, what works? What doesn't work? What can I take and put into our mix to improve what we're doing? I'm constantly.
All I can see is that they do it several times a day, every day, and I don't. Yeah. You do. So there's no reason why. I mean, I don't know what you could add. The gaming thing, I think will pull a lot of people in. I know some people who've been wanting to do gaming on our channel. I'm like, yeah, it's not. You can, not really our thing, but go for it. Yeah. I shouldn't say that because
I think doing some collaborations will help with some of that as well. And who knows what that looks like, if Critical Blast has a show that we do a replay on, maybe that's something that we do. I don't know. Maybe our show, maybe we make our shows available to other channels to replay. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Well, I know somebody who's doing that.
A magic bullet nugget out there somewhere that as soon as I hit that, we're going to have 20,000 subscribers.
Talk to Pops. Talk to Pops Van Zandt. He's doing exactly that.
I've talked to Pops. I need to get back with him because he he popped in during an open line Friday a few weeks ago. When I do need to have a conversation with him.
Yeah, because we had a video last Monday, back when the Kickstarter brouhaha was all kicking off for the Mike Barron book,
Mhm.
and I talked with Pops beforehand. He's like, "You need to get on our net." You can't talk. You can't say what Pops is saying unless you talk like Pops. You need to get on our network, man. But he's got all these different broadcasters that are paying him $5 a month, which means his StreamYard is the maximum premium you've got. You've got the high quality camera streaming out now. You've got all the different outlets. So we played that video. It was our channel, our show, but it was through his studio.
Mm-hmm.
And it went out like 7 different simultaneous streaming sites, because what we could pick, different YouTube channels, different Facebook groups, different Twitches, was just everywhere.
Yeah. And see, and that's the other thing too, is, we probably should have some kind of an active Facebook group. We've got one, but it's hidden right now because I don't have anything on it, and I don't have anybody to run it. And I don't know what we would use it for. I mean, we've got a Discord I haven't done anything with. We've got all sorts of different things, tools and resources and this kind of thing and that and the other. And I'm like, okay, either I have to take the time to learn how to do it, or I've got to find somebody to do it, or it just sits there. And there's a lot of stuff that I've had in the works that is just sat there because I don't have anybody to do it. And I don't have time. So... And I'm going to make it worse for myself coming in January with some of the stuff that we're going to announce on Friday, the 30th.
That's going to be your 500th episode of Live from the Bunker. You mentioned Blast from the Bunker. That's the joint that we do. Whenever we have a guest with crossover appeal, but not necessarily specific appeal to either one of us. It's the Critical Blast, Live from the Bunker. And we have a simulcast. So Blast from the Bunker is one of your many shows. That's your hosted show. That's where you get to sit down and do your Morton Downey Jr. on the science fiction industry.
Live from the Bunker. And that one started in 2014. It was originally the original plan was for it to be a call-in talk show. Kind of like AM radio, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity call in or Art Bell or whatnot. You'd have your call. And we set up over on Blog Talk Radio, and we had a phone number. And in the entire time that we had that as a call-in show, I had one caller. And it was like, okay, this isn't working. So it evolved from me doing a rant every, for an hour, and having guests, and the interview format evolved into an interview format that worked a whole lot better than just me talking to myself for an hour. And that show went on for a while. And then I got tweaked to a notion that Blog Talk Radio, their terms of service apparently had something twitchy in there with regard to ownership and copyright. So I thought, okay, we're not there anymore. We got to figure something else out. And when I don't know what it was, but for the longest time, I had a real hang up on doing podcasts because I couldn't quite wrap my head around them because I'm old. And for some reason, at one point, it hit me, well, podcasts are just radio on delay, basically. It's radio you can download. And once I figured out, okay, this is not any different from radio because that's where I started. I started in radio. Okay, I could do radio. And so podcasts now suddenly are something I can do. And that's where a lot of these things started. But Live from the Bunker started as a talk show. It evolved into an interview show. And then we went dark in 2018. When we came back in 2019, I said, okay, we got to do Live from the Bunker. And so now that becomes our afternoon talk show. And, you mentioned Morton Downey Jr. We're styled a little bit more like Inside the Actor Studio or Larry King Live. My model as a host is Johnny Carson, but it's that same kind of dynamic. You're just having a conversation. You do a lot of research. You do a lot of homework to make sure that you're prepared for that conversation.
I was with you up to the conversation, and then you lost me.
Yeah. you just do your research, and everything, you just have everything there, and wherever the conversation goes is where it goes. Most of the time you're talking about whatever it is they want to promote, whether it's a new book or a movie or whatnot. And we started with number 101 in January of 2019, and here we are about to do 500 next Friday.
Okay, so from 101 to 500, it's not 500 though, right? That's 400.
That's 400. But this is but next Friday is the 500th episode of the show since its beginning.
Okay. Just trying to get the numbering straight in my head here. Because when you start with 101, you got a head start there. Was it Terrence Pop had a YouTube show by that name? I missed which name that was. And I guess Sleazy Martini 2 from the bunker is just a concept that works. Oh, okay. So it's the Life from the Bunker. Yeah. The bunker is, there was a guy in St. Louis who used to be live from the bunker, filled with rations and love. What he used to, and they used to play the Doctor Who theme song over it too, because he was a doctor.
Yeah, and it's not a unique concept to do that kind of thing. I mean, it's been one of those. But I was in the basement, in the basement at the building here. So, the concept of the bunker, that's always been the gag for the channel, since we started with the .com all the way back. I'm in the bunker and doing this thing.
Yeah.
So,
I used to have the Critical Blast Cave when I was in the basement in my last house.
Same kind of thing. And, and most of the shows that we have, oddly enough, most of the shows that we have kind of a food type of joke gag in the title. I mean, we've got Salacious Crumbs, which is our Star Wars show. We have Tribble Bites, which is our Star Trek news show, and then we've got TARDIS Sauce, which is our Doctor Who show.
This is why I'm always hungry when I come over to your channel.
Right? It just kind of evolved that way. I'm like, well, we got to be clever with the titles of our shows. And I was actually surprised that nobody was using Good Morning Multiverse when we started that show. Like, you're kidding me. I mean, that's just laying out there. How could nobody be doing this? So, yeah.
So what do you have lined up for the big 500?
We're going to send out. I'm going to send out emails to people who have been past guests and invite them to come back on, kind of a little come and go party, and come in and let us know what they're working on and what they're doing and what they're up to. Probably have some regular contributors that'll pop in, like you and Culture Casino, and maybe if we can get Cameron Pasha to join in, different people will pop in and say hi. And then we'll be doing a number of announcements that day. We'll be doing some reveals on a graphic refresh. We're going to get into some new graphics and some new logos going into 2023.
Ooh, rebranding.
Kind of. It's just an update on some things. Just to, it's a new season. We get a new logo type of thing. And then we'll also be announcing what our plans are for the Twitch channel. We'll be making some announcements of some other shows that we're going to be bringing back in 2023. Some other channel specific things that we're going to be setting up and launching for January. So a lot of stuff. I imagine it's probably going to be maybe an hour and a half, 2 hour show that day. And then we'll do the regular, open line Friday. So we'll have people that can call, we'll have a link set up so people could call in too.
Sounds cool. That is going to be on the 30th of this month, which, folks, that is a Friday.
Yes.
You're not going to be at work, folks. You will be. They're going to let you go home early. That's just the nature of the beast. You're not going to have to show up Monday. So, come home or everybody else is gone. Just sit at your desk, tune into SciFi4Me.tv on your phone, and, call in and be part of the show. And tell everybody hi, and tell them what you love about Sci-Fi4Me and what you'd like to see more of, because I know that Jason lives for comments and suggestions about how to make the channel more appealing to people.
And actually, I've been surprised at how little of that we've gotten. I mean, we get an active chat whenever we're live, but we don't get a whole lot in terms of feedback, because you can leave a comment, you can send us an email, and I read all the comments, I read all the emails. And I'm always saying, if you've got an idea for a topic, you've got an idea for a guest you want us to invite on the show, and hardly ever I get any kind of feedback from anybody. And that's something that I really would like to get more of, where we get people that are sitting there saying, hey, I saw this on your, you talked about this on this one, on this one episode. Here's what I think, that kind of thing. I'm looking for that. I want that. I want more of that. And, sharing links and telling people about the channel and, generating that word of mouth, that's a critical piece too. And we don't get a whole lot of that either, which really surprises me. And I'm not sure how to motivate people to tell others about us, but most of our traffic, about 67% of our traffic comes from people that are not subscribed. So, okay, what do I do with that?
I don't know whether the subscribers are the ones that come to mind. I know I've got almost
there's
60 away. Almost
there's
2,000.
a statistic for that. You can get into your analytics and it'll tell you how many of your subscribers are actually coming to watch your stuff.
That's what I need to know. I've got 2,000 subscribers. I've got 10 watchers right now. I'm like, something's not adding up. And I did the check on my subscribers, 0 bots. They're all organic, real people subscribed. So I'm happy with that. But where my subbies at?
I mean, right now I'm looking at my here. I'll even pull this up and show you here. Where is it?
Oh, it's lost. You got merch. You got merch on your channel too.
I don't yet.
Oh,
I'm
let me know when there's a SciFi4Me patch, and I'll put it on this jacket of mine.
I'm working on that. I've got to line up a supplier for that. Okay, so here is my analytics. If you see down here, the not subscribed, 63.4%. So
this looks a lot better when I take the overlay off.
in the last 28 days, out of everything that people are watching on my channel, 63.4% of them are not subscribers. And that's pretty consistent. That's pretty consistent with everything that we're doing. And I don't understand what that is.
So it's basically people who know your guest and come to see your guest. That's one thing I find, is that my guests bring their own audience. It's never the majority of the same audience each time. Woody's out there. Thank you, Woody. I know JR is always there too, so I appreciate you guys popping in all the time. Had a thought and then I lost it. Don't get old, Jason. It sucks.
Right? Well, and it's like, how do you incentivize that? How do you motivate your audience? Because, especially the regulars, we have people that keep coming back every single time. They watch all of the stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, you clearly enjoy what we do, or you appreciate what we do. There's something that we're doing that keeps you coming back, which is great. I don't want to look that gift horse in the mouth. But how do you take that next step? How do you make your primary audience, your regulars, how do you make them now your ambassadors? And that's what I'm looking at in all of these different channels. How do I flip that switch? How do I get people who are constantly there? How do we turn them into show ambassadors? How do we turn them into channel ambassadors? How do we turn them into ambassadors?
Like when I'm going through Twitter, which is a lot, and I'll see, YouTube, hey, so-and-so is live on YouTube right now with this person. And it's never the owner of the channel putting that tweet out there. It's always, somebody who's watching it that shared it out. They've got their, they've got their ambassadors to do that. That's what you want to get. Usually it'll be me for this channel. And you did it tonight. Our guest is always somebody says, hey, I'm going to be over here today. And that's why I mean, they bring their own audience with them. So.
I had a guest on Bunker a couple of Mondays ago. Her name's Serena Strauss. She's an author, lawyer, and she's got her a debut fiction novel that she's just put out. And we scheduled this time, and her PR people sent me an email, scheduled the time, got it all in there. And for about a week ahead of time, she was posting on the regular, hey, don't forget on Monday, I'm going to be over on SciFi4Me's channel. Hey, don't forget, I'm going to be interviewed. Hey, don't forget, I'm going to be on the show. Hey, don't forget, tune in. Tune in. That day after it was done, hey, I had a real great time. Tune into this. Even went so far as to get into Canva, and she posted her own artwork promoting that show on her Instagram.
wow.
And I'm like, why didn't anybody else do this? Right?
Did you have a good turnout?
It was pretty good. Yeah. I mean, and people responded, and you get some people on the tail end, and you get some legs on it where people will come in and they'll watch it after the fact, where it's not live. But yeah, we had some pretty good numbers on that one. We have people that, after she posted that stuff, 2 or 3 days afterwards, hey, in case you missed it, by the way, I did this thing, go see.
Wow.
Like, why can't any of my other guests do this? This is great. I had a guest this past Monday, he did kind of the same thing. It wasn't as extensive, but he posted and tagged us and said, hey, I'm going to be on SciFi4Me on Monday and come see. So you get them every now and again, but I'm like, okay, you're promoting your book. You're doing an interview to promote your book. You would think that you'd want to tell your readers that you're doing an interview about the book that you're about to start selling.
Exactly.
Right? But I don't understand why none of them do it. And I'll even send them, hey, here are the links to the show so you can share them with people. And they never do. It boggles my mind.
And Jer says it was James the Apostle building the church, not Henry the Impartial. Yeah. Well, speaking of growing channels, Jason, I want to save you a little bit of pain right here now, because I can tell you've started. You've got the scruff on the chin there.
Oh yeah,
I have modeled the nerdrotic look. It's not working. It's not the thing.
This is going away soon. Yeah, this is going away soon. So I kind of do, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I'll kind of let it go. But yeah, this is not permanent.
This was an experiment. And how long could it go if I just let it?
Well, it's not. I mean, it's at least straight, and it's nicely groomed, and proper.
Oh, no, it's like, it's hard to shave under here, so yeah. It's like
yeah, no,
I have to go to the barber and have them cut it, because I can't see.
I'm not going that far with it. No,
it's not worth it, man.
I know.
So you need to turn people into walking billboards. It's what I tell. It's what I tell people who are doing crowdfunded comics, which is the majority of our shows, interviewing those creators. They're like, I got my character on a t-shirt. I'm like, you got the character's name on the t-shirt?
Yeah.
Well, no. I'm like, well, then why is it on a t-shirt? Because the whole point is that people can say cool character. Oh, there's a word that I can search and find out something.
Wait, there's a website on that shirt? Let me go look.
Yeah. I've toyed with the idea. I print a shirt once a month, because once a month, Sticker Mule says, we got a new process. Would you like a new shirt for $9? Yes. Okay. The last one I did, fortunately, it's actually laundry day, and I just folded my laundry. It's actually all over there. I could grab it if I looked for it, but I'm not going to. The last shirt I got was a Mike Cole drawing that I had him commission at a convention. Told him it was for a t-shirt, so I had to pay the right fee for it, because you can't just grab somebody's art,
right,
even if you paid for it, and make it a t-shirt. It's a totally different deal, guys.
Right.
But I said, I want you to draw a line drawing of HR Puffin stuff in profile. He's like, okay. I said, but I want you to stretch the head out like an alien queen. And he did that, and he made Jimmy the Flute, the tongue sticking out of it. So I've got this this facial figure from the side here, and then I took the alien font and I wrote underneath of it, HR Giger stuff.
Nice.
Because I thought it was funny.
That is
I have a warped sense of humor.
That is funny.
But the next time I do that, I think when they say black t-shirts, what do you want to put on it this time? I'm going to go out to the QR code generator, and I'm just going to make a QR code for the website and walk around with it, people will scan it just to find out what the heck it is.
You know, you would think that, but I had a QR code on some of the printed stuff that we passed out at conventions for a while, and we didn't get any traffic from that.
Oh, but they knew what that was because it was on your printed
Well,
flyer.
that's true. That's true.
This is the thing to the website. We typed it in.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you just like put it out there with no solicitation whatsoever as to what it is,
Might
you'd
try
be
that.
surprised.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
curious.
there's so many different things that I want to do, and again, selling merch is something we've talked about doing. Trying to figure all of that stuff out, because you've got where you source all of that, who your supplier is going to be, how you do fulfillment on that, and how you're going to sell it, what kind of process. And we had a thing for a while over on it starts with the Z. What's that one where you can make it's not SD, it starts with a Z, and I can't remember what it is. Not Zoop.
Then I don't know.
Anyway,
I had a TeePublic one that I canceled.
We had a problem with one of our mugs that we did, because we did a mug for Salacious Crumbs. And we had a photograph of McKenna on it. We had the logo, we had the artwork and stuff, and it was Salacious Crumbs Sci-Fi4Me. And they wouldn't do it because we were using the Star Wars font.
The font?
The font. And of course, you had Star Wars in a tag, and they said, we can't sell this as a violation of copyright. I'm like, no, it's not. There is nothing on there that's owned by Lucasfilm.
Yeah. I had a Coexist t-shirt, and I had designed it myself. And the O and the E were the disc and the long things of the Enterprise ship. I thought, that works out for 2 letters just perfectly there. And it was a line drawing. It was silhouette. And it was up for a couple of months. And then, not Enterprise, but the new CBS one came out, and a Discovery. And TeePublic said, by the way, CBS has said to strike this, take it down. But I said, okay, fine, whatever.
So we've got to figure out stuff. And it's just, that
you've almost got to be your own printer.
Yeah. Well, you've got that. But you also have to worry about, okay, well, where is the artwork going to come from? Where is it going to, is it
Midjourney?
Yeah. No, we just did a whole show on that. But the other
book covers from it.
Well, see, and I have a moral dilemma with it. I don't see it depending on how you go about generating the work.
Yes,
there is an ethical question there, and it's like, well, this is still wild west stuff.
You can feed it an image and get that exact image out with just a little bitty tweak to it if you work at it hard enough. But to blame the AI on that is sort of like blaming the Xerox machine because someone photocopied your homework.
Well, see, the thing about it is, it's a little bit different from that, because your AI is scraping all of this material that the artist doesn't even know that it's been scraped. There is that copyright. There's that copyright issue that comes into play there, where yes, and it's like any other artist draws from inspiration or whatnot. I want to emulate Vincent van Gogh in my next painting. Okay, fine. You want to do that, but you're still creating something original using somebody else's style as a reference point. Whereas the AI stuff is generating things using things that it has taken from other work.
Yes, but it does that to build classes and to build tolerances of objects, because and I just went through a whole week, so I'm an expert, and I slept at a Holiday Inn while I did it with Google Cloud Platform, and then going through the whole AI business of how they built it up for Google, and it's like just millions and millions and millions of photos. So, if you're an artist who doesn't want your stuff and you take it out, that's great. There are 999,000 other pictures of an apple that this thing's got a reference for. So that when you say, hey, I want an apple, it's like, what's an apple? Okay, well, class of apple is object of certain size with, a cylindrical thing. It's red, it's yellow, it's green, it's not blue, it's not orange.
And I get all that. But at the same time, there's original artwork out there that's owned by somebody. And if it's being pulled in as raw material in the replicator, that's, to me, that's still kind of dodgy for me.
It depends on whether or not a machine looking at it and holding it in memory is the same thing as you looking at the Mona Lisa and then walking out of the museum holding it in memory. It's not a real copy that's left out. Now, I know it was a digital work.
You're not with the analogy doesn't hold up, because if I'm doing the same thing, not only am I walking out with the Mona Lisa in my memory because I've seen it, but I'm also scraping a few different paint pigments and stuff from the canvas and taking it with me. That's how I'm understanding is how this stuff works. Is I'm taking from this, and it may not be, an exact duplicate building blocks or whatnot, but all of these different elements are coming from someplace else, and it's the raw material and the raw data. Because if I'm gonna do something, Mona Lisa, I'm still doing it from scratch. I still have a starting point, and I'm not taking pieces of the Mona Lisa and putting it into mine. I'm still coming up with something completely original. Whereas with the AI stuff is taking all of this stuff and taking it and actually molding it into something new. You see?
Yes and no. And it all depends on which AI you're using too. I know there are AIs out there that literally take the picture and then put a filter on it, and then say this was AI artwork.
Yeah.
I've done AIs where I've fed it a literal picture or 3, because you can do up to 3 of them on some of them, just to give it starting points. And the images I get are completely not the images I gave it, but they do. I can tell that, yes, you got a woman who looks like this woman. And before anybody thinks anything, you can't do anything salacious in Midjourney. I got 2 strikes because I wanted to do an image based on Dick Van Dyke. And both of his names are reserved words that you can't use. So they're very tight on that because they don't want artificial celebrity nudes to be put out there.
I think that at some point, probably, and we had talked about this Monday night, I think one of the compromise solutions is probably going to be, okay, somebody like Adobe or Storyblocks or some licensing library says, okay, Midjourney, here's the collection of artwork where we have permission from the artists. You can scrape this library to do your thing. And anybody that wants to use it pays a fee, and the artists get a little bit of something out of it. I just don't think that you can do it in the wild for very much longer without the ethical questions coming into play, because a lot of Comic-Cons are sitting there saying you can't sell any AI generated artwork in the vendor's room. Because there's still that question: who owns it? Whose copyright is it? How many people have you stolen work from? Or have you?
So Comic-Cons are going to say you can't use AI generated artwork in Artist Alley because it could be stolen. Meanwhile, they're going to enforce this next door to the guy who's selling VHS copies of Wicked, the musical that was taken on a video camera. I'm not too worried about it.
It's not perfect, but
But
anyway, I don't know. Until there's a better defined, here are the rules, and that's going to shake out with professionals and amateurs and business
and
entities. The marketplace is going to shake all that.
And a lot of it's going to come out with Twitter toss and Facebook toss, because guess what they both say? You gave us a picture, it's ours.
Yeah, that's going to factor into it too. So
if they go to Facebook and Twitter to scrape pictures, you got no recourse. You gave it away.
Yeah. Social media has turned us all into the product.
Remember that thing they were doing on Twitter? This is a couple of years back, but it was tracking the bots, the Chinese bots. They put up this god awful picture of something, and then they would have somebody reply to it. I wish somebody would put that on a T-shirt.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, because somebody had put a beautiful picture up there and people had responded, "Oh, I wish that was on a t-shirt." And within 24 hours, promoted ads were putting that image on a t-shirt because Chinese bots were looking for that phrase, scraping the artwork and putting it in the print on demand t-shirt stores. So they started putting up crap and it was showing up in the t-shirt stores just as a test.
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, that was a fun little, it was another Twitter bot. You know, there were
back when Twitter cared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we almost went into a whole other show there. You know, went into Twitter toss and Facebook toss, and let's not even talk about how, you know, hey, you want to license something from Adobe. Meanwhile, somebody's tapping on Adobe showreel and saying, yeah, you know, those colors you use. Hi, we're Pantone. You've got to license those from us. And artists use those colors all the time, and they don't have to pay anybody that fee. There's extrapolation upon extrapolation.
There's always a bigger fish, right?
Always a bigger fish. You know, and there's another story. You might have seen this. It was in AI News today. And I'll get the name wrong. It's a government agency it's the government agency that handles copyrights and trademarks.
The Copyright Trademark Office.
Yeah, something like that. There was a comic book that had a trademark or had a copyright, and they then turned around and rescinded the copyright because the artwork was done with AI, and they said, no, it has to be a creation of human hand. Now the appeal is going to go through because the appeal is that, you know, I wrote the story. So the writing process is still human.
Yeah.
I sequenced the images, I trimmed the images, cropped the images, positioned them in a way of a story.
I did hear about this one. Yeah, that is going to be interesting to see how that progresses through the courts, because it's going to go to court.
Yeah,
probably.
And then there's like, you know, well, every single image is non-copyrightable because that's the way the AI works. You know, you can't copyright it. But the assemblage of a collection of images is on a whole is something different now. So
that's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out.
I'll be keeping an eye. For me, it's a fun toy. I am actually using it. I'm creating backgrounds for a children's book that I've written. I was like, this will be perfect for the backgrounds, and then I can have the foreground characters put in, drawn over the top of it. It's a shortcut tool.
See, and I've got a very specific idea for what I want to do on our first print magazine edition. And I see it in my head. I was like, I know exactly what I want the cover to be. And I could go to Midjourney and I could pay my $8 and I could do whatever and I could come up with something. But I would much rather commission an artist and pay $200 or $300 if I can, you know, whatever.
You'll get something more consistent.
Get somebody that actually I'm paying somebody and there's benefit, you know, there's long-term benefit to that. You know, because I pay Midjourney $8, nobody wins. You know, I get to go the cheap route, but who does that benefit? You know, I'm not helping anybody that way.
Yeah, I get you. I don't think it's going to hurt artists in the long run. In fact, I think it's going to make artists more of an artisanal thing.
Tor's already done a few covers. Was it Christopher Paolini's Fractal Noise book that was generated by an AI? And there was a lot of blowback on that. There's like, why didn't you commission an artist for this? You know, that's a job gone. And you know, long term,
it's going to be corporate level.
But it is going to hurt the artist community. It's the same kind of thing as when you had voiceover artists start getting pushed out of doing TV commercials because the celebrities started doing them. You know, remember when Tom Selleck did the RV commercial and, hey, wait a minute, that's Tom Selleck doing a TV commercial. What's he doing there? You know, and then suddenly they figured, oh, hey, I can make some easy money, go into a recording booth for 30 minutes and I can record this stuff and I can, you know, come home with, you know, a pocket full of cash. When before that it was beneath them. You know, film actors didn't do television and nobody did TV commercials, you know, that kind of thing. But, you know, hey,
Orson Welles pretty much nailed that one down.
Yeah, but I mean, you mean I can get paid just to go into a booth in my pajamas and I can record this thing? Sure, I'll do it. And so now
Yeah.
suddenly all of these commercials are being narrated by actors, by celebrities, by Hollywood people, and the voice artist community took a big hit from that. Same kind of thing here. I mean, AI generated art is going to take a bite out of the artist community, the people who are normally the ones that get commissioned to do these covers.
And there'll have to be an evolution because we're real good at letting genies out of bottles. We have not yet ever figured out how to put one back in.
Yeah, those bottles get smashed pretty quick.
Yeah, you know, the sketch. Look at newspapers in the early 1800s. The artists were drawing the pictures. 1850, suddenly there's this box that you just press a button and a picture comes out of it. And anybody can do it, so to speak. And then you found out that no, 80% of people were really good at taking pictures of their thumb, and 20% figured out, oh, let's adjust the aperture, let's bring some lighting in from the side here, and they turned it into new art. So it was an evolutionary process.
Yeah,
I'm not going to stop until we're all Wall-E.
Eventually, AI will get there, and there will be rules, there will be a process, and there will be an accepted best practices. But in the meantime, it's going to be messy. I think.
It's like the internet early days. Again, Wild West, and now there's all kinds of restrictions on what we can do and can't do.
Only we're circling back to those days. You know, like I said earlier, everybody's getting their own website again. We're going to sell our merch on our own website.
Yep. You can't cancel my own.com.
Wild times, right?
Jason, we've been all over the place tonight, but I want to remind people the reason you're here, 500th episode of Live from the Bunker, December 30th, Friday, next Friday. People, put it on your calendar. Hold your phone up and say, hey, whatever the name of your phone is, remind me on Friday at what time?
1 p.m. Eastern.
1 p.m. Eastern to log on to SciFi4Me.tv so that you can be a part of this historic moment.
Yeah, and watch us on Odyssey too. I want to get people watching us on Odyssey too, because that's the next thing. We got to get that audience built up.
DM me the links on that, and I will add those to the description right after we close here.
So, okay, I'll do you one better. I'll even throw them up there so people can get a screenshot.
Look at that beautiful screenshot.
All of our social media channels and all our video channels and our newsletter link, everything. There it is. All of that right there.
Scrape that, folks. Hit your print screen right now, and then just go in and type them all in. That's a plethora of places to peruse.
And mainly, you know, we did all of that mainly because if we don't grab the account on these different sites, whether we use them a lot or not, somebody will. We actually had that happen when we went to start our Instagram account. Somebody already had SciFi4Me as their Instagram account. I looked at it, I was like, this doesn't have anything to do with science fiction. This is Jehovah's Witness, and she hasn't posted anything in 3 years. What is this? And so I reached out to Instagram and I said, hey, Instagram, we've got SciFi4Me on all of these other places. We'd like to have this account. Is there any way you can knock this loose? Because, you know, there hasn't been any activity on it. They're just sitting here. And so they cut it loose and they let us have it. And she ended up setting up another account. She's like, well, I don't know what happened to my other account. Somebody took it. So now I got to do this. I was like, lady, you didn't do anything with it for 3 years. And it doesn't. I don't understand what SciFi4Me has to do with your religion. I mean, it was a weird thing. But you know, it was like, okay, all of these new social media accounts, all these new social media platforms, we might as well go ahead and get an account somewhere. Yep. And really the only thing that I do is I just copy and paste whatever I post on Twitter. It's like, hey, we got the show coming up. Here's our guest. Here's the time. Here's the link. And
do you have a jibberjabber.social?
No, we don't have we don't have jibber jabber. We don't have TikTok. We don't have Snapchat.
Jibber jabber's not Chinese. Jibber jabber is built by Max DeVille of
we don't have that. Snapchat, we don't have Snapchat. We don't have TikTok. We don't have OnlyFans. We don't have Tumblr. We don't have Truth Social. We don't have Mastodon or what's the other one? The other one that everybody's going to. No, we've got a Gab. It's a new one, and I don't remember what it is.
Hive, maybe.
Hive. That's it. Yeah, Mastodon and Hive, where all of the liberals are going to get away from Elon.
Yeah.
Evil Elon.
I love watching a meme master at work.
Oh, it's just the amount of information that's coming out on all of that stuff just makes my blood boil.
Yeah,
I get
it's
so
hard to absorb it all.
Yeah, it is, which is why he's coming at he's being smart about it. You know, he's doling it out in pieces.
Yeah,
And,
that's the Breitbart method.
Yeah.
I actually interviewed Andrew Breitbart, and he went over that whole thing.
Yeah,
long time ago, long time ago. But anyway, Jason, thank you so much for hanging out and chatting with us here tonight.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Appreciate you coming on.
We'll have to do it more often.
We do have to do it more often. We keep saying that, and then we miss it. We're going gangbusters on Blast from the Bunker. We got 1, 2, 3.
We're gonna do more. We're gonna do more.
We are gonna do more. We just got to find the right people.
And I've got plans that involve you for some of the stuff we're doing here too. So we'll have those conversations. So
I tremble in anticipation. I'll call it that.
But it's always fun to come on and hang out for a little while.
All right, folks in the chat, thank you all for being here tonight. We don't have a show without you, just a podcast falling in the woods otherwise. So we do appreciate you being here. And while you're here, we just hope you had a blast. And that's when I hit this button, which is why we never stream to Facebook, because Universal Music Group thinks this belongs to them.
Your favorite podcast.